measures identified here is to reduce the load on the building by tightening it up. Reduce the load on the building by insulating the walls, roofs, and floors and putting new windows in. The next order is to reduce the load on the HVAC system. We want to reduce the load by insulating the ducts. We want to tighten it up. We want to reduce the load on the HVAC system by reducing our indoor heat gain from lighting. Okay? We want to reduce load by doing appliances. I'm sorry, appliances did show up. I was wrong. Sorry. I kept saying that and it's not on the list. Okay. And then, finally, once we've done that and we've reduced the load as much as possible in the home, the next thing EnergyPro looks at is let's look at replacing equipment. So now we look at replacing the HVAC system. We look at replacing the water heater. We look at throwing a solar system up there. So this is all equipment-based recommendations. So that's the general logic that's used in making those recommendations. If you don't like any of that, you can always choose to run individual energy measures, in which case the software will automatically run every single measure you've specified and will not even worry about cost effectiveness. It will simply report each of the measures for you. Okay, next question. Are you muted?
There I am. Okay. So just to reiterate, it's basically cost effectiveness is what's driving that order overall.
Yeah, cost effectiveness, but also that it does look at load reduction as being the first and most important thing to do before you start replacing HVAC.
Okay. All right. Let's then go back to some more overarching questions, actually. Or no, I'm sorry. We have a specific question about basements. We've got a couple questions about how do you model a basement, a conditioned basement.
Okay, that's pretty easy, actually. All you'll do in EnergyPro is you will take the building tree here, okay, and I'm going to pretend I've got a basement here in the first floor, okay, and I will add an underground wall. Okay, so that's the basement wall. And I'll say that I've got, say, 150 square feet of basement wall, and I'll specify for the construction assembly that this is existing and that we have an 8-inch, well, let's go 6-inch concrete wall. There we go. Okay, so there's the wall. Its below grade depth is, let's say, 64 inches below grade. And then if we want to, we can add an underground floor and say, okay, this is the basement floor, and it is 200 square feet. And we'll go ahead and stick with this being existing, and it's slab on grade. Okay. Next question.
Okay. Wanted to ask about thermostat settings. Are those something that can and should be adjusted within the model?
Right now, when you do the thermostats in EnergyPro, what you're going to do is when you define the existing home, okay, you on the HVAC system will get a simple selection of that's either got a setback or no setback thermostat. EnergyPro will then dictate what the thermostat set points are. It will use the Energy Commission standardized thermostat set points in those calculations. And I believe for the setback thermostat that it sets it back at night to 65, and I believe in the daytime for cooling it sets it up to like 85 degrees, something like that.
Okay.
And by the way, you could consider a setback thermostat as an upgrade option in the calculations. In order to do that right now in EnergyPro, you would need to do a before and after because we don't have on our list of alternatives a setback thermostat. However, and this is going out to everybody that's listening, we have been in discussion with a number of folks, CalCerts, the Energy Commission, DKI, about expanding this list of checkboxes over here to include other efficiency upgrades that you might want to consider on the list. So we took a swipe and we came up with a list here, and we can expand that list. So if anybody has a hit list of items they would like to see expanded here, then if you want to channel that information through Scott, then in the next couple of weeks we're going to be moving ahead with organizing a more expanded list of alternatives to be selected here. So get that information to Scott, if you would, in the next week or so, and that way your wish list has some potential of getting onto the list of alternatives. Okay, next question.
Next question is, in the main part of the model, in many places you're able to specify an item is new or it is existing. What is the distinction, and how does that affect the results?
That's actually a really good question. Okay, what we did is we set everything up so that you probably should say everything is existing. But let's take an example where the homeowner has a recent window that was put in. And this is, say, 50 square feet. Okay? And this window is a new double pane window. Well, you're going to have EnergyPro go through and look at all the upgrades using the alternatives here. And you can see here that we asked it to look at upgrading and putting in some nice new Anderson windows, which was great. But the homeowner says, look, there's no way I'm replacing that, that window there because, you know, I just put it in 6 months ago. It's a nice new window, so I don't want to consider upgrading that window. So therefore, what you do in EnergyPro is if you specify anything in the building tree as being new, then when EnergyPro goes through and looks at all the things to upgrade, it will automatically skip over that item and say that's not a potential for upgrade. So this is the way you can go through and you can do a very tailored approach to upgrading the home, where you might say, well, this back wall here doesn't have the ability to get insulation in because it's not accessible. So now you specify that that's an existing, and let's say that wall was built fairly recently. That's an existing R11 wall. Oh, sorry, a new R11 wall. Now EnergyPro, when it looks at wall upgrades, will ignore that wall in the list. So that's the use of new. Normally everything will be existing, but if you've got anything you want to say is off the table for upgrades, then set it to new.
With respect to lighting, which is listed as one of the essentially the baseload items under the top level, the residential example under the HERS tab, what if you don't want to, first of all, do you need to list all the lighting in the house, or does EnergyPro assume a certain amount of lighting and that you should list here perhaps just those things you want to change?
You should try to list all the lighting in the house, and that way EnergyPro will give us a fairly accurate representation of what we have. And then obviously newer stuff, well, actually, no, that's a good point, Scott. Actually, you should just list the stuff you want to change. I take back what I just said. You should just list the stuff you want to change. Yeah, otherwise, when you do that alternative upgrade, EnergyPro will try to change everything for you.
Okay. So otherwise, the model is assuming a certain amount of lighting. If you put nothing, for example, because you're not planning to change it out, it'll still
assume lighting for you. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've noticed that there is a place in the tree, I think it's under the floor, where you actually specify the number of kitchens and bedrooms on a given floor. Is the residential model?
Yeah, yes, thank you. That's actually a really good thing to mention to everybody. So here's an example. This is the Cheers example where we have a two-story home. Okay, and if we look at the first floor here, the first floor, if we go to the occupant tab, we've specified that there's one kitchen here and no bedrooms. If we go to the second floor, we've specified there are no kitchens and 3 bedrooms. That is very important information that you need to specify for EnergyPro if you're going to do multiple rooms or multiple floors in the building, because this tells EnergyPro that you're going to have 3 occupants or 3 bedrooms worth of people upstairs, and downstairs you're going to have all the heat gain associated with the cooking and kitchen appliances. So do be sure to specify that correctly.
Okay. Thank you for that. With respect to water heaters, if there is a water heater blanket that is part of the work scope, how do we model that, or any other kind of improvement to the water heater that has to do with insulation?
Okay, so what I would do is if I was modeling a water heater, in this case I've got the standard water heater as being a prior to 1999 water heater. Okay, what I would do in my upgrades is I would specify over here that I were going to put in a new water heater, and let me find one on the list here. Let's see. I would specify, so the existing water heater we specified was down here. That was a default gas. That had a 0.53 energy factor. So then I would specify my new water heater as meeting current code. So I would call this new DHW. And I would give it the current code efficiency level of 0.575. Okay, so that is a new water heater. So putting the blanket on the older water heater will bring it up to the efficiency level of 0.575. And so what you're doing is you're telling EnergyPro that that water heater efficiency has now been increased by the reduction in blanket losses that are associated with it. So that's actually a pretty easy one to do.
Okay. Thank you for that. And next we have questions about back to the HVAC system. First, does EnergyPro have any reaction to downsizing the HVAC system? If you reduce the load, you're now got a properly sized ducts, let's say, and a well-sealed home, and you don't need such a large either airflow, or you just have lowered the load size on the HVAC system. Does EnergyPro, how, if at all, does EnergyPro reflect that in the energy calculations?
So what I would do if I had that circumstance, and this is not on the alternatives list, okay? So if you want to see it on the alternatives list, you'll need to communicate that to Scott. But the way you can do it right now in EnergyPro is you do a before and after case. So you create your home before, save it, you create your home after. Now I'm working on the after home, okay? And just to make that clear, I'll just call this the after home. And I would go into the HVAC here, level of the tree, and I would specify that I had certain upgrades to the air conditioner. One of those would be that I had probably the verified airflow. Okay, so now we've got proper airflow across the coil. I would specify that I had verified cooling size. So now I have a properly sized air conditioner. There's other things you can do is the fan energy properly sized. So in other words, you're going to verify the fan energy. You can verify refrigerant charge. So when you install that air conditioner, you're going to make sure that the refrigerant charge is correct. So there's all these upgrades that you can make to the air conditioning system that represent the benefit from either properly sizing it, properly sizing the airflow across the cooling coil, properly selecting the fan, and an ECM fan motor would be appropriate here, and even the selection of the EER. If you've selected an air conditioner that has a better EER on it than normal, so maybe you've got a 13-SEER air conditioner with a 12 EER. Okay, so there you could say, okay, I've got a better EER. So these would be all upgrades that you can consider. Now, right now, of course, they're not on the alternatives list, so you would select a before and after, and EnergyPro would give you appropriate benefit from doing all those things. And you can see there's a lot of minor tweaks that you can make to the HVAC system here with these 5 checkboxes. Okay. Next question.
I'd like to point out also, the screen down at the bottom is where one enters the air, the blower door results for a home if you need to change that